Welcome to this week's edition of Military Trailblazer Office Hours. Thank you for taking time out of your Friday evening to spend it here in the spirit of community, mentorship, and learning. I'm your host, Geraldine Hall. I'm a customer success manager at Salesforce and a military trailblazer. Each week, we invite a co-host or co-hosts to take part in the conversation so we can leverage their experience, expertise, and unique perspectives. The focus for tonight's session is external branding, how to get your name out there. So if you've ever been interested in best practices for building your brand through the Trailblazer community, this is the session for you. I'd like to welcome and briefly introduce our co-host panel for tonight's session, Josh Matthews and Vanessa Grant.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so glad to have you both. Josh is the president and founder of Salesforce Staffing, LLC. He has been mastering the art of recruitment since 1999 and is a leading authority on Salesforce talent recruitment. You can also catch him and his 4,200 followers at JoshForce on X, formerly known as Twitter, or when he co-hosts the wildly popular podcast, the Salesforce Career Show. Vanessa is 12-time certified Salesforce business analyst, product owner, and independent Salesforce consultant. She is also a co-host of the Salesforce Career Show with Josh and is one of the brightest personalities within the Salesforce ecosystem. A champion of high-quality business analysis, she is also the founding leader for the popular Trailblazer community group for business analysts, affectionately known as the Badass BA Group. Hopefully my kids were not listening when I said that. It's so great to have you all co-hosting Office Hours with me. Welcome.
Thanks, Carolyn. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it would be great. Do each of you want to take a minute to introduce yourselves further and share your Salesforce stories? Josh, we will go ahead and start with you.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'll tell you just my quick history of my involvement in Salesforce. I started using it the year it came out, 1999. I worked for a dot bomb out of San Francisco. I was on a 56K DSL dial-up, and I hated it. I hated the software. I was not used to something that wasn't on-prem, but I was a remote worker at the time for cardclub.bomb, and that was the deal. So that was my first taste, and then I didn't really come across it again until much later when the company I was working at, which is was Robert Half International, when they did one of the what at the time was one of the largest implementations, and I was one of those train the trainers, so one of a couple people helping to get the 50 or so people in the branch learning it. Salesforce then became a client, and then it was just over 6 years ago, I left the Fortune 500 world and launched Salesforce Staffing. At the time, it was under the name of Endeavor Staffing, but it's just been a dedicated niche headhunting firm, mostly headhunting, also some consulting. And I'll tell you, it's this community. I mean, I've been involved in all sorts of things from Padnock, Portland area.net user group, all the, I used to host all sorts of different tech sessions, Ruby on Rails sessions, things like that back in my Portland days. And I was very involved in the tech community on a local level. Being involved in Salesforce is so fun because it's at a national level or even a global level. That's really unique. And boy, they have just set it up, with Trailhead, with the launch of the Dreamin' events, with Dreamforce, with Salesforce Saturdays, and then with HANA Slack, military office hours. I mean, there's so many different avenues that people can be involved. And I absolutely love that about this community. I don't think there is a single tech community in the world that comes even close. There's first and seconds way down here. So it's been wonderful to be a part of it. I love getting to work with Vanessa on the podcast, which is the Salesforce Career Show, and getting to help clients find the best candidates that they possibly can hire for their businesses, which are predominantly in the consulting or the SI and ISV space, but we also service clients as well. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow,
hi, everybody.
Since 1999, Josh, that is just amazing to me. Probably one of the first people with their hands on in Salesforce.
It was Vanessa. A little bit like being on using Zoho in 2008, right? Like, it was like, oh, this.
Too funny. All right, Vanessa, go ahead.
I came into Salesforce as kind of an accidental product owner in 2010. I was a VP of business ops for a SaaS organization, and I was tasked with finding a unified CRM solution. We were using Sugar CRM, Goldmine. We had another acquisition that was using Salesforce. And my very heartwarming Trailblazer story is I signed the dotted line because Salesforce blew me away. So, but it was I homegrew my own admin, homegrew my own dev team, and did that for a while. Then I got laid off from that company 7 years after overseeing their Salesforce org, and was like, oh, geez, I really love Salesforce. Do I want to like still do business operations stuff? Do I want to do Salesforce stuff? And I kind of thought I wasn't technical enough to do Salesforce stuff. I was like, I'm not an admin. Like I couldn't do all the development stuff. And so I did like a weird kind of side thing for a little while as like a DocuSign consultant. I was like, sure, I could help with e-signature for whatever, I don't know. So I did that at an organization for just like a little bit, and they sat me next to the IT business analyst. And I was like, oh, that's cool. What does a business analyst do? And she explained it to me. And that's when I realized that I'd been doing business analysis work in a product, as a product owner, even though I didn't have the word product owner at the time either. For years. And so I did a Google search for Salesforce business analyst, and my real Salesforce career, I think, really began in that moment. And certainly, I think when I've done a lot of these things, people have asked, what would you do differently in your career? Because I have been doing Salesforce work for 15 years, but I really only feel like I've been super doing Salesforce work for the last, 5 or so. And the difference has really been getting involved with the community, which I really started doing in like 2019.
Amazing. Yeah, I think we are just so fortunate to have this dynamic duo here with us today. I'm sure there will be lots of laughs and lots of smiles. So for those of you that are joining for the first time, we always like to briefly introduce and explain the purpose of these office hours. These sessions are an informal get-together for gathering with military trailblazers and allies to explore non-technical Salesforce career and branding related topics to help you achieve your professional development and career related goals. The next hour is intended to be an opportunity for collaborative mentorship. Everyone on the call is encouraged to step up and help answer questions from your perspective. That way, we have additional diversity of experience to the answers that are given. Please keep an eye on the chat window during tonight's session. Dave Nava will be sharing a lot of great information, including learnings, networking, and employment opportunities. So make sure to keep an eye on the chat. If you'd like to ask any questions at any point during tonight's session, please feel free to do so. If you don't feel as comfortable raising your hand, you can always post the question in the chat, and Dave and I will be doing our best to be looking at the chat to grab those questions. And then we'll also be looking for any raised hands. Finally, tonight's session is being recorded. So if you'd like to share an attribution-free comment, please let me know before speaking, and we will make sure that it is edited out of the final recording. Okay, without further ado, we are going to jump into the questions. Vanessa, Josh, you ready? All right, here we go. All right, so as we dive into the Trailblazer community, one of the most compelling benefits, I would say, is its ability to connect people with career-changing opportunities. I know myself found opportunities through the Trailblazer community, and many of us here on the call have found opportunities through the Trailblazer community. So can you share a personal experience where the Trailblazer community directly influenced your career trajectory?
Gosh, my whole career is based on the community, right? Without, let me kind of backtrack. When I entered into this, when I made that decision, and I did a lot of research on which tech stack I wanted to be involved in, this is 2018, like late 2018. And there's so many different stacks to look at. I've done them all, Java, .NET, JavaScript, Ruby, like whatever it was, I was somehow involved in it. But when I started to really do a lot of research about Salesforce, it wasn't even really like so much the community at first. It was more like, how can I get involved? And I'd taken some direction from a mentor at that time, which was, look, it's one thing to be involved in a community, and it's a whole other thing to create a community. Right. And we all know that within this ecosystem, we have all of these different communities the military community, the badass BA community, the Salesforce career show community, the Salesforce professionals community on X. And I thought, okay, I've never done this before because I wasn't allowed to. I was a VP at a corporate job, and they're like, you can't do that. Like, we got a whole team down in California who does that. So the idea of like, okay, how do we create a community was pretty exciting. And there were so many different avenues to go. And so I kind of started with like, well, let me just start with a LinkedIn group, right? So I created the Salesforce Leadership Network, and you have to be a leader in the ecosystem to join. It's never really taken off because business owners and leaders don't really like to share too much. They're in competition with themselves. So it never really took off, but you just kind of keep trying. And then it was like, okay, what about X, or at the time, Twitter? Communities launched. I think Vanessa was like, hey, you hear about this communities thing? And I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to go build one. Salesforce professionals. I think it's the largest Salesforce community on X, which is not that big. It's under 3,000 people, but still, it's something. And you just build it, grow it, blast out tons of emails, hope they join, and grow it. So the idea of like building a community instead of just getting involved in one is something that I think, it's a little bit more advanced, but even people with a little bit less experience can generate a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity there. As far as, how have I benefited? Without these communities, including the LinkedIn community, I wouldn't have a successful business, and I'd not be able to help people in the Salesforce ecosystem. So it is all who you know. And I think there's this other part too. It's like who you know, but how are you dialing yourself in and presenting yourself in such a way that people want to know you? The idea is you want to go from like reaching out and trying to connect with a bunch of people, and you do that enough over several years. Eventually, what happens? You're no longer knocking on the door. Everyone's knocking on yours to come in. And when that shift happens, it's quite massive because it's a lot less work. Nice.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of things that stood out to me, Josh. Don't be afraid to fail, right? I think especially when it comes to any sort of social media presence or networking for our military community that's transitioning out of the military, that's always such a scary thing, but it's okay if you try something and it's like, oh, this wasn't the right fit the first time. So it is okay to try new things. And also your story about people coming and knocking on your door reminds me of Dave Nava's story that he oftentimes shares, but how he had built, even before he got out of the military, people were looking at him because he had put his brand out there to try and get him to apply for roles. So just how important that can be. Vanessa, would love to hear your opinion.
Oh gosh. The Trailblazer community is, it's like the opportunities that have presented themselves, even like either through Salesforce or through careers that have presented themselves, even that I can be independent now just because people know my brand enough that they want to work with me has been like jarring. But if you want a perfect example, the fact that I am here today, like on this call, like what ended up happening so the Trailblazer community, yes, we call it the Trailblazer community, but it's very large, but there are lots of different pieces of it. There's different programs like the military program, but one of the ones that I'd gotten into very early on, because I had been, an executive, was I got in on back when they had the Trailblazer mentorship program. And so back in the pandemic days, Josh was doing this Clubhouse show with like 2 other Salesforce recruiters, and I would listen to it because I wanted to get actionable career advice, not for me, but something I could pass down to my mentees. And I showed up every week, and eventually, while they were great at answering the resume questions and the interview questions, sometimes people would be like, well, what's it like when you're an admin? Or, can you advise me on my certification path? And I had opinions about these things. All of a sudden, here we are years later. We've been doing the show for years at this point, but I just started as a listener. And I think part of that, my involvement in the community and how I've kind of evolved from, a content consumer to, I guess, a content creator, which, yes, kind of cringe when I say that, but like, it's still, it is, what my path has been. I think a lot of it is learning publicly along the way. And I was okay learning publicly and sharing my journey, and doing that attracted people to me that were on the same path as me, either behind me a few steps or ahead of me a few steps. And I ended up finding my community organically that way. And that was really helpful, just to be public about what I was learning and when I was learning it, and even when I went sideways. Like that one, MuleSoft class that I signed up for that was free, that I was like an hour and a half into a 6-hour class before I was like, you know what? MuleSoft isn't for me, but I know myself better as a person now. And sometimes you just got to make those pivots, but people can relate to that stuff.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I can relate to it. Yeah, go ahead,
Can I
Josh.
just say that Vanessa, because I remember when she was on the show on Clubhouse, and it was we launched it in response to COVID. Like, people were losing their jobs left and right. There were a lot of nerves. I was getting calls all day long. We didn't have time throughout the workday to actually address all of these concerns. I was like, I'm going to open it up 2 hours. Ask me something, I'll help you out. But come to the show. And sometimes I'd hang out and there'd be no one there, and then someone would pop in, answer the question, grew from there. But Vanessa, the way that she just said, like, how she found her community. I almost want to say her community found her, right? She was just posting stuff about herself and her journey, and it resonated in a really authentic way. I mean, I think I'm an authentic person, but I think that I don't present to the general public the same level of rawness and authenticity that Vanessa is willing to do. And that level of authenticity and vulnerability, I think, is what has really generated a lot of people to be attracted to following her. And I think it's a commendable thing. Like, there's so many different ways to do this, right? And hers is one way, and definitely a highly successful way.
Yeah, absolutely agree. We're gonna dig into the authenticity piece here in a little bit. But yeah, I think Vanessa, you spoke a little bit about mentorship. So this next question, what role does mentorship within the Trailblazer community play in shaping successful career paths?
Well, I think maybe back when I started in 2010, you could find people that could comfortably say they knew pretty much everything about Salesforce. I think in 2024, if anybody's saying that, it'd be like, red flag. So I think when we're talking about mentorship, you can't just, I think there's a matter of resourcefulness that you need to have in order to be a successful Salesforce Trailblazer. And part of that resourcefulness, yes, is, okay, cool, I can open up Trailhead and do a search, but you can be faster and more valuable to your teams if you know that person. Oh, there's Tina. She's the Health Cloud person. I know she runs the Health Cloud Heroes group, or there's Melissa Shepard. I can ask her a question if there's like some architecture thing that's totally like, can I just like do a temperature check? That's the value for me. And yes, of course, there's like the ongoing mentorship with just people that have believed in me along the way. Like, I had it's not up yet, guys, but like, I have a guy who is a BA, not in the Salesforce community, but just kind of came to know me through LinkedIn as a BA, and really supports what I do. And just one day he like bought me Vanessa.ba. It's like a Bosnian URL, but like, what an awesome URL. And he's like, I want to support you and nudge you in the direction that I think you need to go. And having supporters in that way is just, I mean, it's the feel good stuff that helps you keep going, whether you are mentoring and helping people or getting support from people where you didn't expect it, or even if you did expect it and that they're just willing to offer their time to you. It's besides the knowledge and the resourcefulness and the value it adds to your career, the feel good stuff is also just motivating.
Definitely. I'll tell you, it makes
amazing.
me think of this idea of like if you want to really get involved, if you want to, if you're finding someone online, maybe they're not going to be a direct mentor to you, it's not like that kind of a relationship, but maybe you just like, you want to be able to reach out to them now and then. You want to ingratiate yourself. I'm telling you, flattery works. Like, flattery works so freaking well, particularly for the people who are in social media or who are leading certain discussions where they're like not used to it. You know, they're not used to like, oh, what do you mean? You love my content? Like, well, oh, okay, yeah, you can call me anytime, you know? So just something to stick, stick in your back pocket when you're thinking about how do I approach some of these folks, and how can I feel like I can, can I call this person and have them take my call and spend 20 minutes or an hour with me? Flattery will get you everywhere. Not inauthentic flattery. It just means being really open about the kind of impact that they've made. And if you can express that in an authentic way, they'll look after you. People like taking care of people,
And I'll add to that. I think a lot of times I've seen people trying to transition into the Salesforce community or or career path, and they think they have to like come out the gate being a content creator. So, okay, I got to start a blog, I got to start a YouTube channel. There's so much you can do by just being a content amplifier.
Yeah.
And that's, I haven't heard anybody else use that phrase. It's a phrase that I've been using it for years, where it's part of that learning publicly. Like, it's not when you go on Trailhead that you're just hitting that share button and go, oh, look, I did a Trailhead module. Like, who cares? If you can also say, I took this Trailhead module, these are the things that I learned, I think it's really worthwhile taking. It would be good for these types of people. Or, hey, this webinar is coming up, I'm really excited about it because I'm on this BA path. And maybe after it's done, take a screen capture and say, oh, wow, I got so much out of this thing. Besides making the actual content creator who is probably doing it for free feel good, like, eventually you start noticing those people. Like, for me, like, one of my heroes is like Ian Gotts. Like, oh my God, anytime Ian Gotts would speak, like, I'd be like white knuckled at the chair because I was so excited. I was like, yes, I understand what you're talking about. Like, Tony V. Martin, like, these are the people that were further ahead of me on the path and really helped me find my path. A lot of where people started gravitating to me was I'm just posting about, oh my God, I just learned so much from Ian Gotts in this thing. These are the 5 things that I learned, and the 5 quotes that I'm going to keep using in every interview. Like, that's the kind of stuff you can amplify if that's where you feel more comfortable. Just, again, that kind of learn publicly thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Dave probably remembers this when I was like an infant in the Salesforce ecosystem, just trying to break in, pivoting from human resources. Who would have thought, right? A human resources person coming in to Salesforce. I would just attend these sessions and I would take whatever the learning was and I would create just like a little snippet of, hey, it gave me kind of this idea of where could I put information out there and just share some of the things that I learned in these sessions. So I 100% did that to this session. And now look, I'm helping host these sessions. So it's a full circle moment, but yeah, infant baby Geraldine did that for sure.
I'll even, baby Vanessa Grant back in 2021, I was like, I'm listening to, like, I can't get enough of, this Ian Gotts, Tony V. Martin content, but where's the community? Because all I see are admin communities. What I really want is to have a community of BAs. So back in 2021, I started petitioning Salesforce for a BA group. Like, and it was through the community. I had a Trailblazer community leader who said, I will reach out to the Trailblazer community person you need to speak to about this so you can open up a case. I opened up a case, the case got closed, I reopened the case got closed, I reopened the case, and here I am in 2024 with my own Salesforce BA group that's now like 1,000 people strong and global. Like, there's also a tenacity to like, no, you know what, it's there. Like, let me be the content that I want to see in the world to a certain extent.
Yeah. Like David's going to know that persistence wins every time, right? I mean, you don't get to be a naval aviator without, with a lot of quit in you. You've got to push forward. You've got to just like not let go. And even when you feel like quitting, and I always think people would come in and be like, I'm open to a challenge. Like, people who wanted to join my team, and I'd be like, well, to me, I don't know what challenge means to you, but to me, challenge means you're going to want to quit and you don't, period. That's what a challenge is. And so for those folks who are going to go out there and maybe try new things with their brand or with their community or social media or just general networking, attending conferences, things like that, you're going to run into things where you fail or you feel like you're failing. It's not the same thing. So keep going. You just keep going. And then don't quit until you really know, like you've exhausted it to where it's to where you, when you get to the point of indifference versus to the point of like frustration, it's not the same thing. You know, when you literally stop caring, then it's definitely time to move on to something else. So
Yeah, I think this talk about really just having the ability to move through adversity, right, is a great transition for our next kind of question group we're going to have. So military veterans and spouses bring some pretty cool, unique skills to the table. I would say one of those being the ability to just get stuff done. When told no, they will just keep persevering. So how would the Trailblazer community help this community, the military Trailblazer community, translate those skills and find those experiences that align with them, maybe some more of those soft type skills if they're transitioning into the Salesforce ecosystem?
So can I just ask for some clarification on that? So I'm not great with really long questions because of my short-term memory. So, but I think the question was like, okay, military people have these qualities. How can the community help them translate that into the Salesforce communities?
Correct. Yeah. How could they use and tap into the Trailblazer community to really take the soft skills, some of those soft skills that they have, to find those next roles?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Listen, a lot of this sounds like career, right? It's career oriented. The idea here is like, how am I going to have a fulfilling career, and what can I do that's maybe a little bit different than the average Joe to help accelerate what kinds of opportunities present themselves, right? I think what I would say is cross-pollinate as much as possible. The soft skills that you have from the military, they're yours. They're yours forever. You get to continue to grow and develop other skills, but they're yours. The military at this point doesn't have anything to do with you except that it's your history. You've got a background in it. You've learned something from it. You've developed qualities. You've developed a network, right? And you've proven yourself. You know, I mean, if you get all the way through, a lot of people are in their 20s and they're 28 years old. They've never had a job for longer than a year, right? But if you've been in the military for 4, 6, or 8 years, that shows commitment, right? So there's these certain qualities that will echo forever for you in your career, tenacity, stick-to-itiveness, and this sort of thing. But the cross-pollination is really important. And Vanessa and I have talked a little bit about this in terms of, and we use talent stackers as an example. You might be everyone knows talent stacker. So you might be a talent stacker and you're promoting it and it's your banner on LinkedIn and you've got 2,000 connections or 1,000 connections on LinkedIn. But if they're all junior people who aren't really working yet, your network is not valuable. It just isn't. The best thing I think that military folks can do is hang on to their roots and lean into that community as much as possible, and then just set free. You're a civilian now. I mean, unless you're doing the guard, right? So you're a civilian now. So act like the civilians do and go join all of these other groups. Let go of that. There's how do I put it? There's a comfort, there's a comfort level when you're hanging out with military people. And I see it at conferences. It's like, oh, look, there's Larry Lee, and who's he hanging out with? 3 other Army people, So like there's a comfort level of and there's nothing wrong with that. The whole idea of getting involved in new companies is expect to feel uncomfortable right up until you feel comfortable, right? No one feels comfortable in boot camp. No one feels comfortable, 4 months into their military career or 2 weeks into their new post in a foreign country. Like, people don't feel comfortable. It takes time, but you've got to put yourself in these situations that are going to allow you to feel really uncomfortable right until you can get comfortable. So I would say cross-pollinate, stretch out, join lots of different groups, and see what resonates with you, right? Like, I'm not on X a lot. I've got some followers on there, but I don't lean into that platform a lot. I lean way into LinkedIn, right? I've tried all sorts of different, I did Facebook for a little while. It was like ick. So, like, you just lean into the different communities. I'm on Ohana Slack, but it's not my thing, man. You know, there's a lot of opportunity out there for me. I could help a lot of people on there, but it's just not my thing. I find it overwhelming the way I find X overwhelming. But because I can navigate LinkedIn, I stay in there. Thank God it's gigantic, right? So you can go in there and find another community, but I'm so comfortable with that platform. So find a platform that really resonates with you. It's got to be like, some people love Discord, some people love Reddit, right? And you've got to find that place where you're like, it's a new group, so there's discomfort there, but at least you're comfortable with how the communication is unfolding. There are people who, you know, you'd think they were on like the Taylor Swift tour, like they've gone to every single dreaming event possible. They can't get enough of it. They're just going to travel around because in person is their thing, right? And they're never going to be on X, and they're never going to be on Ohana Slack. So pick yours and then just lean into it big time, big time. But try a bunch until you find what works and give it enough time to resonate.
Yeah. And I was going to add to that, I threw it in the chat, but be open to feeling stupid, because you will not, you will be surprised at the opportunities that, or the revelations that will present themselves. And the example I'll give is, I went to my first Trailblazer DX a couple years ago. And I remember going to that thinking like, oh my God, this is all developers and architects. I'm going to feel like an idiot for like a week. And I didn't realize until I actually leaned into this, the developer and architect community, I was like, oh, team soft skills here. Sorry, guys, coming through. But like, speaking to folks that are more technical, I realized that it wasn't that they thought I was stupid. It was that they wanted to work with people like me because people like me enable them to do what they do great. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh no, I'm over here, you guys are over there. And then I was like, no, we're all on the same team here. We just all have our parts to play. And I have to just figure out, where, how we all connect with each other, and getting that full picture, I think is really helpful. Now we're talking back to the subject of like what soft skills are transferable and figuring out what your transferable skills are. I mean, I had a click session earlier today. It was all about consulting, and we were talking about what are the soft skills that you can highlight. Well, are you great at organizing things? Do you have any project management skills? Do you have any industry skills? Even if it was from 10 years ago, do you understand certain industries? Do you, can you communicate? Are you really good at documentation? Are you really good at taking notes for things, and not just notes for yourself where you're the only one who can understand them, but could you organize a meeting, like meeting notes, so that you could give them to other people on the team and they could understand them? Can you speak on the fly? Like, one of my greatest talents for whatever reason is that I can speak intelligently about stuff that maybe I don't know a ton about, but I can go up and, all right, we're doing this. I'm going to improv this and be engaging and funny and maybe throw in at least a couple nuggets. Like, for whatever reason, that's my gift, and it comes across. But finding your soft skills, and especially I would say in a consulting capacity, I think it does tend to maybe lend a little bit more as far as the versatility of the things you can do, if maybe your Salesforce technical skills might be lacking a little bit, or you're still trying to like catch up and learn on that stuff. But yeah, it certainly, being able to demonstrate that you have versatility outside of Salesforce, hugely important, and absolutely something that people should do if they want to get into the Salesforce ecosystem. You can't be like, I have nothing to offer, and then like, give me a job. Like, no, like, find those things and lean into them. It doesn't mean that that you're not worthy of a Salesforce job. It just means that you're going to maybe initially heavily lean on those other skills that you have honed over the years.
You know what? This is making me think too. There's a lot of imposter syndrome when it comes to communities and social media or leadership. And like, we see it all the time. Someone could have 7 years, be a badass, make, really great money, and they still have it, right? That's not necessarily, that can be a hole that might never get filled, right? That's one of those things that when you're constantly feeling imposter syndrome, I tend to really recommend people explore different organizations that can help grow confidence, psychotherapy, like all sorts of things, get a coach, like whatever it is to resolve that, right? And get your few, and just cut yourself some darn slack. I mean, just go easy. And one of the things I want to share with the audience today is that when you're new or newer and you don't have a big following, you don't have a lot of followers on any of the platforms, you get to fail and there's no punishment, right? if you write a post, it could be an amazing post. No one's going to see it. You know, if you've got 150 followers on LinkedIn, it's going to get pushed out to 5 people. Maybe one person sees it. Maybe you get a click, probably won't get any clicks for a long time. So it's a really safe to fit. All the platforms are super safe to fail. If you're avoiding hashtags initially, right? It's safe to fail. You can make tons of mistakes. You can write horrible blogs. You can, make total judgment errors. You can make statements around technology that are completely untrue, and you're not going to hurt anybody. You're just getting your reps in, right? But then when you start to hit the right kind of comments, the right kind of post content, what have you, contributions, well, then it starts to resonate. You only start growing that network or that reputation and that brand. It doesn't happen while you're not good. It'll never grow when you're not good, right? So you can just get in there, do it, and practice, right? And it's free to fail. So just keep going. And then when it starts to work, you'll notice, because people will start reaching out to you and inviting you to come on podcasts and things like that. So there's a lot of cool ways to go about it, but failing is the easiest thing to do when you don't have any followers. So do it. Get out and fail often.
That's awesome. I'm hearing a theme here, Josh. It is okay to fail. So
Yes.
for our community, it is okay to fail. It is not the end of the world. If you don't get something right the first time, it is okay.
Yeah.
Amanda, we're going to kick it over to you for your question before we get our branding photo for today. Oh, I don't think I can hear you. Okay, Amanda, we'll get our photo and come back to you for your question, or type it in the chat. Okay. All right, so
You got your desk lipstick there, Vanessa? You got your desk lipstick on hand? She was talking on our podcast the other day about having desk.
I'm not at my desk right now. I'm at a friend's place, but yeah, I was saying yes. And I don't know if it's like every gal, but me as a remote worker, like what I always have at my desk, I always have a cardigan, a lipstick, and a scrunchie. So if I am like, especially if I'm working with the East Coast folks, because I live in LA, like if I just need to go from pajamas to professional in like under a minute because a meeting's about to start, like that is scrunch up, lipstick, cardigan, like, hey guys, how's everything going? What's on the stand-up agenda today?
I love that. That is life advice right there, Vanessa. Dave Nava, do you have your lipstick and your scrunchie?
I'm ready to go.
Here we go. Okay, so we are a little bit past the midpoint of our session. So before I forget, we'll go ahead and get our group photo for sharing on social media. It is always important to be branding. This session is about branding, so we are going to make sure to get our photo. We will post this on LinkedIn and X tomorrow or in the next couple of days, and we'll make sure to tag everyone that's in the photo. So for everyone that wants to participate, everyone's off camera, so we are good to go. So we will go ahead and get this photo here in 3, 2, 1. All right, we are good to go. And I'm sure Dave Nava got a backup. I think this is, see, all I need is 6 tiles. That's like what makes me get a good photo. When there's like 30 tiles, it's a little stressful for me. It's a lot of faces I have to make sure are looking.
I'm just glad we didn't attract too many people to the show, so that it worked out for you. That's good.
No, it's whenever we change. It has been on Wednesdays. Whenever the date or time changes, it is always a bit challenging. If you did not know, military people are creatures of habit, right? Structure is very ingrained in military folks. So yeah, anytime something changes, we oftentimes see a little bit lighter of a crowd. Okay, so we had kind of talked a little bit earlier about authenticity. So I want to dig into that a little bit more with you all. So your personal brand, it's not just a resume or a LinkedIn profile, right? It's how you show up and connect with others. So how can individuals showcase their expertise, contributions to stand out in the Trailblazer community? And how like what piece does authenticity play in that?
Great question. Really good question. Look, there's so much. I'll just say this. The very best way to demonstrate your brand is to not even talk about yourself, really. It's to have other people talk about you, right? Like good people talk about themselves, great people are talked about. And if you can kind of keep that, even if it's the early stages, because we all have to talk about ourselves or give our perspective and kind of, just put ourselves out there, and that's fine. But when it comes to really reputation, and reputation and brand are very, very closely aligned, right? When it comes to reputation, getting other people to talk about you is the number one thing that you should strive for over time, right? And the way that you do that is you help them, period. The more people you help, the more they're going to talk about you. And by the way, it's okay to ask them to talk about you. It's okay to mention, hey, do you remember when we talked about this? That was beneficial, right? Yeah, it really was. Hey, man, could you do me a favor? Next time you post, could you just tag me in something about that? That would be great. Like, it's okay to ask for that. I mean, this is what PR professionals do. They pay agencies and do this for them. I don't have a PR person. Vanessa doesn't have a PR person. I'm assuming no one on this call does. So we have to act as PR for ourselves and promote ourselves. But you want to promote yourself through others, right? Versus like, check out what I did. I'm so awesome. And isn't this great? And isn't this cool? Because when we do that, or we do that too much and we're not showing enough vulnerability, by everything's a win, everything's crushing it, everything's awesome. Check out my avocado toast. Like it just kind of gets like exhausting. And there's this guy I like to watch. I can't even remember his name offhand. He's a former Black Ops CIA guy, and he's also a neurologist, and he's a behavioralist. And I love this kind of content. It's reading facial expressions, deception training, things like that. You leaned into that for 20 years and use it in my practice so that we can make the best match, right? And one of the things I saw him talking about recently was measuring how fake someone is, right? When we're sizing someone up, we're trying to size up two things. One, what do they want me to notice about them, right? And two, how comfortable is this person within authenticity, right? And we're doing it constantly. We do it with pop stars. We're like, oh, I don't like her because she blah, 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 or whatever. Or I don't like him or whatever. Or, oh my God, the Kardashians, they're so fake. It's like, really? But we're doing it constantly with every single person that we meet. And you've got to figure out, now, a lot of the people who exhibit high levels of fakeness get a lot of followers because there's a lot of what's suggestible people out there. Okay, that's a good term. I think they're very suggestible. The suggestible people aren't necessarily going to be the people that get the most respect in any community. The ones who demonstrate discernment, scrutiny, the ones who might have, just a little bit of hesitation on certain things. The people who have a heavier filter, those tend to be the people that have the highest quality of content and information. They've really narrowed it down. These are the people that are real influencers. Think of someone like Andrew Huberman. He knows his stuff. He doesn't talk about everything. He just talks about things within his sphere, and he's very knowledgeable. And people respect that and they lean into that, right? So you want to decide, how fake am I going to be, right? Like, am I going to come out there and just be like, hey, like I'm happy all the time. I'm happy all the time. And are you going to do that? But it's like quick to smile, quick to frown. And people who are managers, people who are hiring managers, they know it. Don't ever think that we don't see through you, because we do, right? And the truth is most people do see through it. It's just that some people have a more sensitive gut check, and other people might be sensitive with their ability to read people, but they are unwilling to do anything about it. Do you see what I mean? So they might get bowled over. It's like, oh, they're never going to say, oh, I think that person's inauthentic. Okay, they can have the job, whatever, right? So you want to set yourself up where you are really believable. That, by the way, doesn't mean complaining all the time to show that you're vulnerable, right? Or what have you. But it does mean that you should truly kind of consider, How much are you going to lean on AI for what you're sharing? How much of your personal experience are you going to share? Vanessa does a wonderful job of integrating her daily life into some of her posts and some of her experiences, right? I think it's a really wonderful way to be authentic. So just be very, very mindful of that. Be careful who you follow too. I don't want to take too much of the floor, but a lot of people will join a company, and if they're a moderately suggestible person or someone who doesn't have quite a lot of confidence, someone in that office or someone in that environment might kind of latch onto them, kind of be like, hey, come on over here, I'm going to show you the way. Be very careful who that is, right? The people that are most likely to benefit you long term within an organization, within a company, are too busy with their own community. They're too busy with their own friendships. They're too busy interacting with leadership and other players in the organization. You're going to be the last person that they latch onto. So question that person. The first, this is like, who, it's like The Godfather, it's like Brent Barzino or whatever, like whoever comes to you with this proposal, they're the traitor. It's like, careful of that, right? And be very discerning. Don't latch on too hard, and don't take all the advice from someone until you start hearing from other people, hey, you could go work with Amanda. She's really busy. It's going to be hard to get her attention, but you should go work with Amanda because she's tops. And there's Amanda just cranking away, doing her thing, right? Not coming up and be like, hey, you want to go to lunch? Hey, I need a new friend because everyone else has turned me down. So just be cautious of that. Who is going to influence you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add to that a couple of things that I threw in the chat. Don't let AI homogenize your content. Your voice is important. If you wanted to help clean up maybe some of your stuff just to make sure, it's grammatically correct or whatnot, that's fine. But like, don't get homogenized. Also, don't be a parrot. Just because everybody is saying this thing is great doesn't mean that it is great. Like, have an opinion about it. And if you genuinely think it's great, then cool. Then say it's great. But don't be a parrot. Also, this one is my hot take, but I don't think everybody should be a hot taker. There are some people that I feel like, geez, they're like just mad every day about something in the Salesforce ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's like, die mad. But I mean, doesn't mean that there aren't some days that I'm like, oh yeah, totally agree with that, and I'm going to throw my take on in the comments too. But I think there's also you don't want to build your brand on being angry. So I think a lot of times, and it's okay to pause before you hit enter on something and say, does this represent me? Does this feel authentically me? And you know what, if you don't mind, I'll share a situation I'm currently struggling with. So I was recently asked to, and I don't think it's a big deal, but I was asked to for money to promote the Trailblazer community. And I would have to do hashtag ad on my LinkedIn post. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can sell a LinkedIn post. Is that me? I don't think it's me, but maybe, but I like the Trailblazer community. I don't have any issues with, and I'm not getting paid for plugging it right now. So you can, but this is just me sharing, I don't know, is this weird if I do that? But it's okay to just pause and go how does this feel? How does this feel for me? Does this feel like something that is in line with what I want to represent or who I am? And it's okay to say no, even if it does sound like a really good opportunity. If a lot of people would jump on that opportunity, if it doesn't feel authentic, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Yeah. A lot of people do have resistance to monetization of celebrity, right? And it's my rule is, unless you're going to make more money doing that, don't take a dime. We don't have paid ads on the podcast, even though I've had a number of people offer it. But it's for your $50 just isn't going to buy my my loyalty to whatever this product you got, right? Forget it. So
yeah, I think that's a great point, that authenticity. I think times it is easy to get wrapped up in, oh, this is such a great thing and everybody thinks it's great, and this is a great deal for me, and just kind of finding yourself in that situation, and then being able, like you said, Vanessa, to take a pause and say, is this who I want to be? Because this will be tied to me. you can change things, but is this who I want to be? Is this who I am? So
Yeah.
great points there. Stacy, you have been
are you-
patiently.
Can I
Oh,
just
go ahead,
jump
Josh.
in? I'm sorry. I just want to,
Yeah.
before we move on to a different subject, I just want to capitalize on what some of what Vanessa shared. So I'm a big believer in dividing the herd, right? To find your people, you can't be all things to everyone, right? McDonald's isn't. They're very niche, highway food, right? So like you've got to divide the herd. That means it's totally okay to have an opinion. It's okay to be passionate about that opinion. And it's even okay to come off like you're frustrated and angry sometimes. But be careful, because if you're not then providing an alternate viewpoint or a solution to that, then you're in trouble. When I started I've been on LinkedIn for a very, very long time, many years. But when I started this company, I was trying to divide the herd immediately. I'm like, people don't hire right. 50% of hires fail in the first 18 months because most recruiters suck. And I still say that today, because I can describe why it's ineffective. I can describe why the hiring managers make mistakes, and I can offer a better solution to that. If you don't have a better solution, don't complain about someone else's, right? You can't just be a naysayer. You actually have to be a solution provider or a perspective provider. So get as mad as you want, there's nothing wrong with that, but give them something that they can then latch on to that's different than what you're saying no to.
I know I heard that many times in my career. Don't go to your commander to complain about something unless you have a solution. So I think that is something that will definitely resonate with our military community.
There you go.
Stacy, you've got a question.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just fine.
Okay, great. So thanks for talking about niches and in the community and everything. I was wondering, we hear a lot of stories about these OGs and people who've really made a place for themselves in the ecosystem over the years by finding a need in the community and then not exploiting, but finding how they can service the community or maybe even just help themselves by helping others. What do you see as like the next big frontier, I guess, in the ecosystem as far as gaps that need to be filled or opportunities that could be low-hanging fruit for the flood of people that are coming into the ecosystem now? Because I mean, Salesforce is growing, and so are the number of people who want to work in it.
My feeling on that is even just from the marketing and whatnot, like the AI revolution is already here. And as Salesforce clients are starting to prepare for AI, things that I think will be important besides knowing AI. Of course, if you know like the Salesforce AI stuff, and certainly Salesforce is having free classes and free certifications through next year. Everybody should take advantage of that. Everybody, even if you don't ever work on an AI project, just learning the vocabulary will be helpful to you. But if we're talking about niches, like, okay, well, if we want to do AI properly, like what are the things that would be involved in a successful AI engagement? If I were working for a client that was like looking to do Agentforce or Data Cloud or whatever the heck it might be. I don't know. I haven't been on any of these projects yet, but like, I know Salesforce enough and know that these projects are going to be coming soon. So, okay, we need documentation. Documentation is going to be really important. Because AI is going to get fed on a lot of this stuff. And so, okay, it's garbage in, garbage out. So are you good at documentation? Are you good at business analysis? I need to know every scenario that your Agentforce agent is going to have to possibly deal with. So can we document that? Can we also speak with business stakeholders and understand all those different scenarios and work on our business analysis skills? Plus, we also want it to be a really good user experience. So do you have any skills in user experience design? Are you really good at showing empathy with people and understanding how to reduce friction points in people's processes? Are you good at making things beautiful? Are you just naturally, is that like a skill that you just naturally have? Also, data cleanup. a lot of folks have all this technical debt in their orgs, and they're going to realize all this technical debt's going to make their AI even make it terrible. How can AI give you good recommendations on your data if your data is garbage? So are you that person that, everybody's like, oh, I don't want to do the data transformation and cleanup project. And you're like, yeah, give me that Excel. I love those formulas. Like, maybe that's going to be your niche. Like, yeah, I love me a good Excel form. Like, seriously, like it was so. There's smaller things that you can do. You don't have to just be like the AI person. Like, there's a number of things surrounding a successful AI engagement that you can't, like the soft skills, if we're talking about that, they're not all soft. The whole term is like weird to me, but there's a number of skills that aren't necessarily Salesforce configuration and development that are going to be really important.
Yeah, excellent stuff, Vanessa. Stacy, the flood of new people into the Salesforce ecosystem, I mean, it's unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it before. I mean, that's the gift of Trailhead. I mean, it's so inviting to so many people. I suspect there's a slowdown happening with it right now. There are so many people that have entered into the ecosystem and they're 2 years in and they're still not working. They still haven't done a single project. They got their cert, they're knocking on doors and they're unsuccessful. We have dealt with massive tech layoffs to the tune of 500,000 people in the last 2 years. The administration doesn't talk about that. You don't see it in the jobs report numbers because they don't want it in there. And things can be really confusing and conflating. Oh, we added 200,000 jobs. It's like, well, you lost 300,000 jobs and you added 200,000 part-time jobs. It's not really the same thing, right? So I just want to make sure that we're looking at a very realistic picture of what's happening right now. We're going to have a show next in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about our predictions, and there's going to be some stuff coming out from Ben McCarthy that I did a little bit of contributing to about like what's coming down the pike in the next year, in the next 2-3 years. And I think one of the things that we're going to see is a little bit of a slowdown of people trying to get in. It used to be you talk to your friend and they're like, I just got my cert and I'm making $80,000. And now that you're talking to them and they're like, well, I got my cert, I'm making 25 grand a year part-time. I've been doing it for 2 years. I still can't land a full-time job, right? So I think that we're not going to have as much competition. AI, to Vanessa's point, it is taking over certain aspects. And there are a lot of qualities or a lot of functions, repetitive functions that AI is going to be able to do that a lot of admins trained really hard to do. And now it's going to be the push of a button or a voice command, right, to get it done, or some highly effective prompting that's going to accomplish that. And you don't need Agentforce for that, right? There's other things built into Salesforce, and there are other organizations. We talked about this the other day on the show. I mean, I have an agreement with a company, and they actually have an AI admin, right? So you can get an admin, someone to do some of the core work for really cheap. Now they're not going to be writing awesome flows and doing all these other things, but a lot of the stuff that the smaller companies just need done, like once in a while, like they're not going to have to hire a full-time person or have a managed service deal, with a consulting practice. They're going to have a relationship with a software company that's running all of their needs for them with some human oversight, right? So to Vanessa's point, it's going to be really critical to lean into those soft skills. How well do you work with stakeholders? How well do you listen? How willing are you to push back when it's a bad idea, right? Nicely, push back nicely, right? That's when people start to build trust. I like when my employees tell me, no, Josh, I'm not going to do that. And I go, okay, well, how come? It's like, well, I did this, this, and this, and here's the proof, and here's the numbers around that. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. I learned something. Great. And now I respect them because they're a free thinker. So free thinkers will thrive in the land of AI, and people who are not free thinkers won't. They'll have to go do other things. So be a free thinker, have your own mind, be willing to speak up, be willing to take notes. I think that, usual, like, seek first to understand and then be understood. I think that applies in business. I think it's really important in communication skills within your business. But as far as like, what can you do to prepare for for what this world is going to be like. It's like become a badass at any of the LLMs, any of the large language models. My favorite is perplexity.ai. I stand by it. I talk about it all the time. I prefer it to ChatGPT. Get really, really, really good at that, right? Start getting involved in how to create things within AI so that you can communicate in your own voice, right? I mean, just yesterday, I wrote a job description. I ran some AI stuff through it. Boom, there it was. It was beautiful. And I was like, great, now write it in Josh blog writing style. And boom, I was like, oh, now there we go. Like, that looks good because it sounds like me, right? So you can do some things like that that are going to find you efficiency, but also make you attractive to future employers, not just as you're trying to get involved, but as you're communicating on the projects that you're working on as well. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Great
I just signed
advice.
up for Perplexity.
I
Good.
know.
You're
We
gonna
were
love
all
it,
like,
Dave.
wait, let's make
You're
sure
gonna
we
love
get
it.
that. Perplexity.ai. The other thing, Stacey, I would say is you're seeing kind of a shift with AI, how Salesforce is moving from like a license type model to more of a consumption type model, right? And so efficiency for what is built and what is used, I think, is going to be even more important moving forward with the inclusion of AI, because if something's not efficient, it could cost in very real dollars the organization more. So I think that is going to be really important moving forward as well. So wow, this hour has flown by. So before we close, I would just love to thank Josh, Vanessa so much for co-hosting tonight's session with me. It has been so awesome having you two on here. And I cannot believe we didn't have you two on here together before, but I'm happy we were able to finally make it happen. Thank you so much for your advice. We had some very actionable items that our community can take to help set themselves up for success. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Geraldine, and thank you, David.
Thank you.
Yeah, with that, thank you so much for attending, and we hope to see you all at your next session. Have a great Friday evening for those of you US based, and we'll see you at our next session.
Bye, everybody.
And don't forget to listen to the Salesforce Career Show.
Yes,
Bye.
absolutely. We all have tagged that next session.
Wonderful.
Take care, guys.
Okay, bye for
Thank
now.
you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.